Many years after leaving Westport, Zelda painted a lampshade featuring some of the places they'd lived, including the Gray House in Westport.
Zelda put Nathan on that lampshade, maybe as an act of rebellion against Scott, because he did try to manage her. She was pretty unmanageable, though. I don't think he had much success.
One more thing we found interesting is the Great Neck House isn't on that lampshade where they spent the most amount of time, but Westport is.
In May of 2015, the Fitzgerald Great Neck home went on the market. It garnered worldwide coverage in such media outlets as the BBC, the Wall Street Journal, and the New York Times. That same month, the Fitzgerald Westport home finally sold. It barely generated local press, let alone international coverage. The Fitzgeralds spent a lot of time with Scott's Princeton friends, including Alexander McCaig, who also kept a diary.
The McCaig diaries are particularly valuable because though he was friendly with the Fitzgeralds, he also was somewhat disapproving.
We're only the second people to contact you about this diary?
Yes, that's correct. The other person was from either North or South Carolina.
Great.
And it was several years ago.
McCaig's diary has been quoted by biographers, but it seems to be the same things quoted over and over. That's why we wanted to see it.
Well, the reason the biographers are all quoting the same source is that they're quoting each other.
We've read McCaig's diaries from start to finish and came up with some pretty startling revelations.
Look at that, he comes back from the party, came back that night, very ill, exclamation point.
Just 9 days after Scott's wedding, McCaig wrote, "Called on Scott Fitz and his bride. Latter temperament, small town, Southern belle. Chews gum, shows knees. I do not think marriage can succeed. Both drinking heavily. Think they'll be divorced in 3 years. Scott will write something big, then die in a garret at 32.
Many people envied the Fitzgeralds, and many of Fitzgerald's Princeton friends who did not take him seriously when he was an undergraduate there were astonished that he could become the kind of writer that he did. People fell in love not with Zelda and not with him, but with the two of them together.
By the 4th of July, their partying had become as time-consuming in Westport as it had been in New York. Firemen made quick run to Minuteman but found no fire. Operator says alarm came from Fitzgerald's. They deny it. Some member of the family suggested that possibly someone came into the house during their absence and sent in an alarm. Fitzgerald's, from whose telephone central says the alarm came, deny it. Say they were out of the house, but will pay costs. Legend has it, when the fire chief asked Zelda where the fire was, she pointed to her breast.
Did you ever read this short story, The Cruise of the Rolling Junk?
No. It's like the first road story.
We began to sing a song about biscuits. The song related how down in Alabama all the good people ate biscuits for breakfast, which made them very beautiful and pleasant and happy, while up in Connecticut all the people ate bacon and eggs and toast, which made them very cross and bored and miserable, especially if they happened to have been brought up on biscuits.
When I was researching a book I wrote about my mother, I went to Montgomery, Alabama, and met one of Zelda's old childhood friends, Catherine Haxton, and they had danced together, they were belles together. One time, Catherine remembered, soon after Scott and Zelda were married, they drove to Montgomery unannounced. Judge and Mrs. Sayer had gone to New York, and the two couples missed each other, so Catherine got the benefit of the visit. One morning, Zelda was looking for a toothbrush. She called, "Scott, what'd you do with the toothbrush?" Didn't have but one. I thought that was the sweetest, most romantic thing I'd ever heard of.
The joys of motoring are more or less fictional, and, too, we had to leave the car in Alabama.
You are a rotten driver.
We missed it, didn't we?
In the case of The Cruise of the Rolling Junk and The Beautiful and Damned, A lot of it had to do with automobiles and driving, which was a novel sort of thing. You read the Cruise with the Rolling Junk and you see that car travel was hazardous and dangerous and a great adventure. All of that comes to fruition in The Great Gatsby with Gatsby's gorgeous yellow car. It all does come in a sequence, and it helps you track Fitzgerald's thinking and the development of his thought.
I think, as some people have said, Gatsby was his second try at it. The Beautiful and the Damned was the first.
It worked in The Beautiful and Damned, so he's going to draw from it and put pieces of it in Gatsby too. Makes perfect sense.